Welcome, everyone. I'm Susie Valdez, and I will be your moderator for today's event. Thank you for joining us for our presentation titled Analytical Solutions for the Accurate Determination of Nitrosamines Produced in the Manufacture of APIs and Drugs. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our speaker, Chander Mani, Application Engineer at Agilent Technologies. For a complete biography on our speaker, please visit the tab at the top of your screen. If any questions arise during the presentation, we encourage you to submit them in the Q&A box. Our speaker will address your questions following the presentation. Please join me now in welcoming Chander Mani. I will now turn the presentation over to him. Welcome, sir.
Hello, everybody. Today, I'll be talking about analytical strategies for the accurate determination of nitrosamines produced in the manufacture of various drugs. In this presentation, we'll be trying to understand what are mutagenic impurities, what are the current regulations for controlling mutagenic impurities, LCMS-based approach for the analysis of nitrosamines in APIs and drugs, and also the GCMS-based solutions available with us for them. This all started back in May 2018 when European Medicine Agency EMA reviewed drugs containing valsartan API, and this review of valsartan drug substance was triggered after the company detected N-nitrosodimethylamine, an unexpected impurity in the valsartan API, as the amount of this impurity was present at an unacceptable level. This led to the voluntary recall of several drug products containing this active pharmaceutical ingredient, valsartan, and since then, FDA and other regulators, as well as additional manufacturers, have identified more cases of NDMA and other nitrosamine impurities such as NDEA, NMBA, and others, not only in valsartan-based drugs but other ARB drugs as well. So what are these pharmaceutical impurities and how are they formed and why it is very important to control them? Let us try to understand them. So these are unwanted chemicals that remain with APIs or drug product formulations, and there can be three major categories of such impurities. They can be organic compounds, inorganic or elemental impurities, or residual solvents. And how are these formed? They may arise during the synthesis or as a reaction byproduct. They may also get formed as a result of inherent stability of drug substance, added excipients, interaction between packaging materials, and container closure systems. And it is very important to control them because the amount of impurity present in drug substance determines the quality and efficacy of the final pharmaceutical product. And therefore, the identification, quantification, qualification, and control of these impurities are a critical part of drug development process. One such process-related impurities are mutagenic impurities, and these can originate via intermediate reactants and unintended byproducts formed during the synthesis of a drug substance, or as degradation products generated during formulation or storage. Mutagenic impurities have the potential to react with DNA, causing a carcinogenic response and cancer. They pose the risk to users' health even when present in trace amounts. There is another term called genotoxicity, which is similar to mutagenicity, except that genotoxic effects are not necessarily always associated with mutations. All mutagens are genotoxic, however, not all genotoxic substances are mutagenic. Mutagenicity and genotoxicity are often used interchangeably. All these chemicals are of special concern to global regulators because unlike most impurities in drugs, these mutagenic impurities have the potential to cause irreversible damage even at low levels. That's why we have robust policies and procedures in place to guard against the risk caused by the presence of these impurities. Regulatory agencies are working tirelessly across the globe with single focus on controlling such pharmaceutical impurities to ensure pharma product quality and safety, be it in prescription drug or in generic version. Drug manufacturers have to perform the risk assessment test that must take into consideration the source of contamination both pre and post manufacturing. An initial investigation report by the manufacturer regarding the root cause for presence of NDMA and NDA indicated that these mutagenic impurities were formed at a specific step during the manufacturing process of ARB drug, and the level of these nitrosamine impurities present may depend on the reaction conditions used. Due to their known potent carcinogenic effects as well as the feasibility to limit their presence or even eliminate the same by taking reasonable steps, FDA mentioned that there is no acceptable specification for nitrosamines in ARB APIs or drug products. Therefore, FDA advises that nitrosamines should be completely absent from ARB APIs and drug products. According to the principles of ICH M7, these nitrosamines found in APIs and corresponding finished products are of concern, and as an initial measure, in February 2019, US FDA published the interim acceptable limits for these nitrosamine impurities in ARBs as a guidance tool for manufacturers to ensure the finished products are safe for consumption. Based on the compound specific risk assessments, the derived acceptable daily intakes would be 96 nanogram per day for NDMA and 26.5 nanogram per day for NDEA, which would correspond to 0.3 ppm for NDMA and 0.08 ppm for NDEA respectively for valsartan. These levels will vary for different ARBs as seen in table here. If a manufacturer detects a new impurity or higher levels of these impurities, they should fully evaluate those impurities and take appropriate actions to ensure that products are safe for consumption. So regulatory agencies came up with various testing methods for these type of drugs. So if we see sartan based drugs, then there are methods published in US FDA, Health Canada, Taiwan FDA, and Council of Europe for testing of these nitrosamines either by GCMS or by LCMS technologies. Similarly, when it came to ranitidine based drugs, then US FDA and Health Sciences Authority of Singapore have came up with LCMS based methods as GCMS based method were found to elevate the levels of NDMA in ranitidine based drugs. These nitrosamine impurities are not limited to sartans, and these can form during API processing under certain processing conditions and in the presence of contaminated raw materials, starting materials and intermediates. These can form as unintended byproducts when reagents such as sodium nitrite or other nitrites are used in the presence of secondary or tertiary amines in the course of synthesis. These impurities can be carried over during the manufacturing process when already contaminated equipment or reagents are being used. Another possibility of nitrosamine contamination can come from raw materials, starting material, recycled solvents, excipients, reagents that do not come from appropriately qualified suppliers. Contamination from vendor sourced raw and starting material poses particular challenges because a producer of API whose manufacturing process is not capable of forming nitrosamine compounds may not be aware of the risk of such impurities being present. So, regulatory agencies advise companies to take steps to avoid nitrosamines in drugs. Risky preparations must be tested for nitrosamine contamination via validated and appropriately sensitive analytical methods, and inform competent authorities of nitrosamine detections irrespective of amount detected. Regulatory agencies advise companies to take steps to avoid or limit nitrosamines in medicines. US FDA published various testing methods for detection of nitrosamines in ARB drugs. Here in this table, you can see some of these methods are based on GCMS, whereas the other methods are based on LCMS based technology. And these methods vary with respect to LOQs and LODs, and also with respect to how many nitrosamines are being covered in one method versus the other. Similarly, ranitidine tablets were recalled by FDA in September 2019 following the detection of low levels of NDMA impurities. And so they came up with two methods for detection of NDMA in ranitidine-based drugs. One such method was based on LC-HRMS, whereas the other method was based on LC-MSMS, which was a triple quad-based method. Both were having the LOQ levels of 0.03 ppm in these methods. And as you know, most recent one is the metformin drug scenario. And metformin is a prescription drug used to control high blood sugars in patients with type 2 diabetes. And FDA again came up with two methods for detection of nitrosamines in metformin based drugs. And one was released in April 2020 and other was released in June 2020. So the one which is released in April 2020 talks about NDMA only, whereas the recent method talks about 8 nitrosamine impurities with lower detection limits compared to the previous one. So as we just saw that there are methods based on GCMS technology and there are methods based on LCMS technology. So we in Agilent have the solution to address these challenges, may it be with our GCMS instruments or with our LCMS instrument. We have complete solution to offer to address this challenge. So here we'll try to understand the capability of Agilent LCMS in order to address the challenge of nitrosamines in sartan-based drug. But before that, let us try to understand what are the LOQ levels expected in US FDA guidance documents. And if you see here, you can see that for all 6 nitrosamines, it is 1 nanogram per ml or 0.05 ppm limits. So before developing any method, these are the reference limits in our mind that our method should be capable of meeting these limits. Here is the summary about the nitrosamine analysis using 6470 LC triple quad. If you see this data, you would find that we not only covered 6 nitrosamine impurities which are published in FDA's method, but we also tried to cover 6 additional nitrosamine impurities in this method. And in terms of sensitivity, if you see LOQ levels of all these 12 nitrosamine impurities is far lower than what is expected in US FDA's method. So making it suitable not only for today's requirement but also for future. Here in this method, we used 2 MRM transitions for each of these nitrosamine impurities. And having the additional transition gives us the information about the qualifier ratio. And this qualifier ratio can be extremely important in ruling out any false positive results. We made use of APCI ionization technique here in development of this method and optimized the source parameter such that we get best possible sensitivity for all 12 nitrosamine impurities. So after developing a method for 12 nitrosamine impurities, we started working on drug substances and drug products. So one such drug substance was losartan, where we started developing a method. And when we start working on method development of any API, we need to understand that it is most critical part to separate the API peak from rest of these nitrosamine peaks such that you can divert the API to waste, because API concentration is very high concentration. As in this example also you can see, as per FDA's recommendation, we need to take 20 mg per ml of API. That means it is 20,000 ppm which cannot be allowed to go inside mass spec. So diverter valve program should be such that we allow only nitrosamine impurities to go inside mass spec and API is diverted to waste. With this, we developed the method and we could achieve the LOQ of 0.1 nanogram per ml, or you can say 0.005 ppm. And here are the recovery study results for losartan drug substance, and you can see we got the results within plus minus 20% of the spiked concentration levels for all these nitrosamine impurities. And here are the results for 4 of the nitrosamine impurities. And here you can see the recovery results for NDMA and NDBA, which is again within plus minus 20% of the spike concentrations, and we got excellent recovery for all nitrosamine impurities in losartan. Another important thing to understand about methods ruggedness is its reproducibility data, and if you see here we got excellent RSD percentage for all 6 nitrosamines for 6 replicates at 1 nanogram per ml concentration. And if you see here is the RSD percentage value with bracketing standards also considered into the calculation. Again, you can see all 6 nitrosamine impurities are showing less than 6% of the RSD percentage value, which is very good at this concentration level. Another sartan which I'm trying to show here is the telmisartan analysis. Here again, we separated out the API peak from nitrosamine peak, and we could use the sample size of 100 mg per ml on customer's request in this particular case, and we could achieve LOQ of 0.0005 ppm. And if you see the recovery also using 100 mg per ml as the sample size at 0.05 nanogram per ml concentration, you would see the recovery is well within the acceptance criteria. Similarly, we worked for candesartan. Again, we could establish the chromatographic separation, and LOQ of 0.005 ppm was achieved in this method as well. And here are the recovery study results for candesartan, where again we got all the results well within 20% of the spiked values. So as we see the market trend, we could find it out that study of nitrosamines is no more limited to sartans only, and in that series we got one molecule named pregabalin to study for nitrosamines. As we know, the formation of particular nitrosamines is dependent on synthetic route of the API. So in this particular case, this customer was not interested into the exactly same 6 nitrosamine impurities which are being referred to by US FDA's methods, but here, depending upon the synthetic route of this API, they were more interested in N-nitroso-methylaminopiridine and NPIP. So we developed the methods such that we could separate out pregabalin peak from these 5 nitrosamine impurities, and we were able to develop a nice method where we could achieve the LOQ of 0.005 ppm. And in addition to that, there is a possibility of improving the sensitivity by increasing the sample size, and then we can go further down if required for any such method. And you can see the recovery data for pregabalin for 5 nitrosamine impurities using 20 mg per ml as the sample size. This is again well within the acceptance criteria. So after completing the analysis in 6470 LC triple quad, we repeated the same experiment in our Ultivo LC triple quad, and you can see here we could achieve the LOQs which are quite similar to the LOQ levels we achieved in case of 6470 LCMS. And far better than what FDA's document is talking about. So Ultivo again is capable of meeting all the current as well as future requirements for nitrosamine study. Similarly, in case of Ultivo also we use 2 transitions for each of these nitrosamines, and we kept source parameters same as we used in case of 6470 analysis. Here is the data from Altivo LCMS, where you can see the calibration curves for 6 nitrosamine impurities showing R square values greater than 0.999, which is just awesome. So another sartan that we tried testing in Altivo LCMS was valsartan, where again we could nicely separate the valsartan peak from nitrosamine peaks, and we could achieve the LOQ of 0.005 ppm initially, and on request from customer, by increasing the sample size later, we could achieve even 0.0005 ppm in this particular case. And like always, at 0.05 ppm spike, we could get excellent recovery result for this analysis as well. So as you saw the results, both Altivo LC triple quad and 6470 LC triple quad can meet the current as well as future requirement for addressing nitrosamine challenge. So here is the internal design for Altivo. You can see here, Altivo is the most innovative LC triple quad currently available in the market, which is the smallest LC triple quad. And if you see here, the ionization source remains the same, whereas from inside, may it be cyclonine guide or vortex collision cell, all are redesigned to make it smaller but keeping it equally sensitive machine. In addition, you have the vacuum shield, where we don't need to vent the system for cleaning the ion injector. So it saves a lot of time in that way. So here are various ionization sources available with us. So today you may be working with APCI ionization source for addressing the nitrosamine challenge. Tomorrow your molecules of interest can be little different. So you might require to work in electrospray ionization or more sensitive version of electrospray ionization, which is Agilent Jetstream ESI, or you may need to screen the molecules. I mean, together doing ESI as well as APCI. We have multi-mode ionization source for that matter. And similarly, if you are interested in more non-polar type of compounds, then we have APPI source. And for your solid samples, we have atmospheric solids analysis probe as well. So it is possible to ionize almost everything using these ionization sources. And here is the design for 6470 LC triple quad, which is a curved design to reduce its footprint a little bit. And then it includes new enhanced Q1 ion optics, which helps in improving the ion transmission, new tapered hexapole collision cell, which again helps in effective ion collection and transmission, and new detector with high energy conversion diode, which especially is important in case of improvement of negative ion detections with low noise. Here we can try to understand how 6470 versus Altivo looks like. 6470 LC triple quad with AGS and APCI source is known for its legendary ruggedness, robustness, and research capabilities. It adds enhanced tuning features for research applications. It is a standard benchtop model, and if you need to do very low or very high masses, you need to go for 6470 LC triple quad. It has the advanced tuning parameter interface. It is an intermediate between the core and the ultra high models, high-end model, and it also has the vacuum shield with it, where you don't need to vent the system for cleaning the ion injector. Altivo LC triple quad, on the other hand, is unbelievably powerful and remarkably small. So this is most recommended LC triple quad for routine impurity screening. This is known for its small form factor and stackable design. It incorporates directly into the HPLC stack. It has automated maintenance features like scheduled auto tune and check tune, vent-free front-end maintenance because of the presence of vac shield is available, and it is proven for its ruggedness and robustness with the help of more than 10,000 injections. 1290 Infinity 2 LC system pairs best with Agilent LC triple quartz. It seamlessly integrates with Agilent mass spectrometers. It has high sample capacity for acute samples. It is known for ultra low carryover and delay volumes. Integrated thermostat with efficient sample cooling is available, and there is an option for dual needle injection for fast throughput. So this is your HPLC, which we generally couple with MS system. Now we'll try to understand about nitrosamine analysis using high resolution mass spec, because FDA published certain methods using high resolution mass spec, so we also tried to replicate those in our lab. Here is the summary result of 6546 LC-QTOF for these nitrosamine impurities. And here in this case as well, we did 11 nitrosamine impurities, which includes 6 nitrosamines which are listed in US FDA's list for sartans. And you can see the LOQ levels here. Again, these LOQs are better than what FDA's document is talking about. Again, we made use of diverter valve program to plan the experiments, and you can see excellent recovery linearity curves here, and source parameters for these experiments are kept same as we used in LC triple quartz scenario. If we see this slide, then we would realize that even at the concentration of 0.1 nanogram per ml, we have the consistency of results, which gives best-in-class result in terms of reproducibility. Here are some important features about 6546 LC-QTOF. This has simultaneous high resolution and extended dynamic range capabilities, higher resolution of greater than 60,000 at 2722 M/Z. It has the new acquisition type called data independent acquisition quadrupole resolved all ion MSMS. It has capillary gate valve, which enables vent-free cleaning of the front end, and this has same sensitivity, isotopic fidelity, and robustness which is there in our 6545 LC-QTOF. It is not only the hardware, but the capability of software is also equally important when we talk about LC-HNMS. So we have certain nice tools like feature extraction called find by formula or molecular feature extractor, which makes the life very easy. And there are tools like molecular formula generation, personal compound database and libraries, molecular structural correlators, which helps not only for identifying the targeted compounds, but also for the unknown compounds. So in summary, if we try to understand the FDA limits in the top left table versus the 6470 LC triple quad, Altivo LC triple quad, and 6546 LC-QTOF, you would see in all scenario we could achieve better sensitivity than is required for this analysis. Then came the ranitidine story, and as US FDA came up with certain methods, we also made ourselves ready with the methods in our instrument. As you know, in September 2019, US FDA published a method for determination of NDMA in ranitidine-based drugs using LC-HRMS with LOQ of 1 nanogram per ml or 0.033 ppm, as sample size for this method was 30 mg per ml. And another comment was in this method was that GC-based methods had been observed to elevate NDMA levels in tested materials. So LCMS was the method of choice for this analysis. So we developed a method using our 6546 LC-QTOF to address this challenge, and we could come up with a very sensitive method for NDMA analysis using our QTOF, and we got it published as application note. As you can see, we established the LOD of 0.15 nanogram per ml, LOQ of 0.25 nanogram per ml, and linearity from 0.25 to 100 nanogram per ml in this method. Again, ranitidine being 30 mg per ml in this case, it is very important to separate the ranitidine peak from NDMA peak, and you can see using Agilent column we could separate it out and we could divert the ranitidine to waste. When we go through US FDA's method, we found that mass accuracy window of 15 ppm has been used for extraction of accurate masses. Here, if you see our results, then you would see excellent mass accuracy values, which gives additional confidence in the results for NDMA and which completely eliminates any false positive results in this case. And these are the mass accuracy values for standards, and here are the mass accuracy values for ranitidine tablets. So which gives additional confidence while reporting these results that there is no false positive result. And another important parameter is reproducibility of the data, and here we have shown reproducibility results at 1 nanogram per ml. As you can see, we got RST percentage of 2.03%, that too including bracketing standard into calculation, which is just superb. And like always, we performed recovery study also for this experiment, and we got excellent results for recovery study as well. So we did a spike at comparatively higher concentration level because of the reason that NDMA was always present in the drugs which we use for spike study purpose. Soon after this, in October 2019, US FDA published one more method for detection of NDMA in ranitidine-based drugs, and now this was triple quad-based method using 6420 LC triple quad. And again, LOQ remains same in this method. So understanding the requirement for LC triple quad based method for this application, we immediately came up with a method which is in 6470 for detection of NDMA in ranitidine drug substance and drug products. And here you can see the method in the form of application note itself. Again, same chromatography was used as is used in case of our QTOF method for NDMA in ranitidine, and same diverter valve program was made here as well. This was again done at two different transitions so that we could make use of qualifier ratio in order to eliminate any false positive results. Like I was discussing about qualifier ratios importance, so you can see here in this result table the consistency of the qualifier ratio for NDMA, and this is here it is shown for standards in this slide, whereas in this next slide you can see the qualifier ratios for ranitidine API and drug formulation, which is coming very consistent with respect to standards, and this gives additional confidence while reporting the results. In this case, again, we performed recovery study at various concentration levels for both drug substance and drug products, and we found excellent recoveries well within 20% of the spiked values. And also we performed reproducibility study at 1 nanogram per ml, including bracketing standards, and you can see here we got RST percent of 0.62%, which is just superb at such a low concentration level. Now I'll talk about the most recent ban in this list, and that is metformin based drugs. As already discussed, US FDA came up with two methods for nitrosamines in metformin. First, they came up with a method for NDMA only in metformin, and then just recently in June 2020, they published a method which includes 8 nitrosamine impurities. And now even the detection limits and LOQs are lower than what was reported in the previous method. Here we can try to understand the LOQ levels which are mentioned in the current method for 8 nitrosamine impurities, and you can see that LOQ of 1 nanogram per ml or 2 nanogram per ml for some of the nitrosamines, or 0.5 nanogram per ml for rest of the nitrosamines have been published in this particular method. So after understanding these LOQ limits, we quickly developed a method in Agilent 6470 triple quad, and we published it as application note, which just got released in the last week of August. Here is the reproducibility data that you can see for 7 replicates, including bracketing standard at specification limit level, which is 0.03 ppm in this case. And you can see all 8 nitrosamines gives RSD percentage less than 6% at this low concentration. Here is the representative chromatogram for LOQ level. You can see here metformin elutes initially only. That's why the diverter valve program is diverted such that after 4.4 minutes only we are allowing the flow to go inside mass spec. And we have used the sample size of 20 mg per ml because we realized that instrument is so sensitive that even the 20 mg per ml sample size would also meet the current criteria. Here you can see the spike chromatogram at 0.2 nanogram per ml, or you can say 0.01 ppm with respect to test concentration of 20 mg per ml for drug substance. And we could separate it out, we could nicely divert the flow to waste, and we could monitor all 8 nitrosamine impurities at such low concentration levels also, and we got excellent recovery for this method. And this is the representative chromatogram for one of the metformin ER 500 mg tablets, which we performed this analysis, and you can see we could clearly separate out metformin concentration even using 100 mg per ml sample size, and we could do recovery study at 0.03 ppm, and we got just excellent results again. Here is the method reproducibility data at 2 different concentrations. We tried to do it at 1 nanogram per ml as well as at 3 nanogram per ml, or I can say at 0.01 ppm and 0.03 ppm concentration levels. And this we did using 8 replicates, which included bracketing standard also. And you can see the reproducibility values of less than 4% or 5% in all the cases, which gives a lot of confidence in our result. And when customer would be running their long batches, then we have the confidence that they would be able to reproduce the results, keeping in mind this type of reproducibility data always. And here are the recovery results for metformin. And it is very important to get good recovery out of this method, keeping in mind the sample size of 100 mg per ml, and we could get excellent recoveries well within plus minus 20% of the spike values. And this recovery experiment was planned at 2 different concentration levels, that is at 0.01 ppm and 0.03 ppm both. And at both concentration level we could see the method giving a nice recovery, and this gives additional confidence to us that this method is well capable of doing the batch analysis at customer places. So far we try to understand LCMS based approaches for addressing the nitrosamine challenge in ARB drugs, and then in ranitidine based drugs, and finally with metformin based drugs, and many other examples as well, where we could understand that time to time FDA revised their methods, they added new and new nitrosamine impurities, and also in terms of detection limits the methods were made better and better. Similarly, we have seen there were many methods got published in GCMS domain as well. So here also initially methods came in GCMS, then GCMS headspace based methods were there, and finally FDA published methods which were based on GCMSMS. Again here initially it was NDMA and NDEA scenario, but eventually other nitrosamines like NDIPA, NEIPA and NDBA etc. also got added into that. And again here in terms of detection limits, with each method coming in, detection limits keep on becoming better and better, or I can say lower and lower. In this slide, we intend to show the equivalency of FDA's method versus Agilent method. And if you see here is the representative chromatogram from FDA, which includes 5 nitrosamine impurities dilution pattern, whereas we got similar pattern with our method in our instrument, which shows all 5 nitrosamine impurities. In addition, for all 5 nitrosamine impurity, we got R square value greater than 0.999, which gives a lot of confidence in terms of linearity of the method. Let us try to understand the Agilent method versus FDA's method in terms of LOQs and other parameters. So if you see here, for NDMA, FDA reported LOQ is 0.008 ppm, whereas using our 7010 GC MSMS, we could get the LOQ of 0.0005 ppm, which is 16 times better than what is reported in FDA's method. Similarly, for NDEA, they reported 0.005 ppm and we could achieve 0.0001 ppm. Again, an improvement factor of 50 times here. Similarly, if you look at any IPA, then they reported 0.005 ppm as the LOQ, whereas we got 0.00025 ppm as the LOQ, which is an improvement by 20 times. And then for NDIPA, it is 0.005 ppm again, whereas we got 0.0005 ppm, which shows an improvement factor of 10 times. And similarly for NDBA also, they talked about the LOQ of 0.025 ppm, whereas we could achieve the LOQ of 0.005 ppm, again an improvement factor of 5 times. And here is not only that, you can see the reproducibility of the data, and here you can see at this concentration level RST percentage of 1.76%, which is just great RST percentage. Like in case of LCMS result, we have shown reproducibility as well as recovery study for all the cases that we have shown. Here in this case also we performed spike studies at 0.01 ppm spike, and you can see excellent recovery was achieved for all the 5 nitrosamines studied here. And as you see, for NDMA we got the recovery of 81%, for NDEA it is 101%, for NEIPA it is 90%, for NDIPA it is 102%, for NDBA it is 110%. So all well within the acceptance criteria of the regulatory agencies. So in summary, you can see all 5 nitrosamine impurities could be detected using a single GC-MS-MS run. Linearity could be established for 7 calibration levels, and R-square values are as per FDA's recommendation. Signal to noise criteria for FDA LOQs were comfortably met, and system can offer much better LOQs compared to FDA's LOQs. And for that matter, you can see we got the signal to noise for NDMA of 22.58, for NDEA like 73.97, and likewise much higher signal to noise values for other 3 nitrosamine impurities. And similarly, like I already discussed, there is an improvement in terms of sensitivity for NDMA. It is 16%, like I already discussed this, and for other nitrosamines also there is a remarkable increase in sensitivity using our GC-MS-MS. So why is Agilent the right choice for pharma applications? We heard a lot about our LCMS methods, about our GCMS based method. So our instrument sensitivity, as we have seen in all these cases, our instrument sensitivity is far better than required, not only for LC triple quad, LC QTOF, but also for GC-MS-MS. Another important factor that we have tried to show in all our methods is the reproducibility data, which is just excellent. We get excellent RST percentage values at LOQ levels in all our instrument platforms. Agilent APCI source is a very stable ionization source, and it brings incremental value to your data quality. features like multi-wash in the multi-sampler just make sure that there is no carryover problem in your analysis. And we have complete solution available in terms of handling issues of ranitidine, ARBs, metformin, and many other drugs using LCMS and GCMS platforms under the same umbrella of MassHunter software. If you wish to learn more about our solutions, you can go through our website and find out our application notes. We have worked a lot on nitrosamine domain, may it be in LC triple quad, in LCQ-TOF, in GCMSMS. We have worked a lot, and you can see all those methods available in our website. We have already done webinars, and on-demand webinars are available for GCMS as well as for LCMS based tech methods for determination of nitrosamines in ARBs, ranitidine, and metformin drugs. And recently we got our work published in LCGC's current issue, which talks about our presence in this market. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and we can take up your questions now, I think.
Thank you, Chandra, for that outstanding presentation. We will now move into the live Q&A portion of the presentation. And as a reminder, please submit your questions via the Q&A box. It looks like we already have some questions coming in. Chandra, is the DLQL depending on the matrices? Should we DLQL determine for each of the matrix?
Yeah, so this is a nice question, and yeah, that's true. But before that, I wanted to switch on my camera, which I'm unfortunately not able to do that. But yes, so taking your question first, so it is very important. So when you try to do various, yeah.
I was going to say, let me help you put your camera on. If you look at that square in the middle of the screen to the bottom right. On the bottom, right in the middle, you'll see little green dots, and you can click on the actual camera, and it should turn on your. And if that doesn't work to the right bottom, you can actually choose your camera. So all the way to the bottom right of the video bridge, and we're in the video bridge, you'll see a little black. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. We want to hear your voice anyway. So this is fantastic, and we have a great audience. So we're going to just go ahead. So let me go ahead and ask that question you again. Okay. Because we do have some wonderful questions that are already coming in. Is the DLQL depended on the matrices? And should we determine for each of the matrix?
Yeah, that is true.
Oh, there you are.
Detection limits are dependent on metrics, because especially when you talk about formulations or real drug products, then there can be a lot of metrics over there. So detection limit is definitely dependent on metrics, but in that scenario, how nicely you separate it out chromatographically is the key to success here. So we can achieve that, and in all the examples that I have shown, we could achieve nice detection limits by separating the nitrosamine peaks from any of the matrix peaks in some of the cases. Yeah, true.
Thank you so much, Chandra. And I want to thank our audience. We have great questions, and this has been an amazing conference. Chandra, what are the sample preparation challenges for the melphalan?
Yeah. So again, I feel this is very, very relevant question in current scenario when metformin is a big challenge currently. So yes, I have seen this. When you work with drug substance of metformin, practically you may not find out major challenges. But when you work with different formulation samples of metformin, then sometimes, depending upon formulation to formulation, it may vary. So that's where the sample preparation method, as suggested by FDA's document, helps us a lot. Because in some scenarios, if you change the diluent, then I've seen the solution converting into a suspension, which can give you troubles with respect to recovery later. So when you use methanol as the diluent, which is suggested by US FDA's method, then that problem is automatically resolved. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We have time for one more question. Which out of the GCMS or LCMS should be used for the nitrosamine analysis in the metformin drug?
Yeah. Again, I hear this question very often in various webinars, and to answer this, you need to understand, we can do 5 nitrosamines using GCMS, which are NDMA, NDEA, NMBA, NEIPA, and NDIPA. But if you look at the method published by US FDA recently, it talks about 8 nitrosamine impurities, and which include NMBA also, which is doable only in LCMS. So it depends. If you're interested only in analysis of NDMA or those 5 nitrosamine impurities, we can do it with GCMS. If we want to do all 8 nitrosamine impurities, we need to go to GCMS, LCMS-based solution.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Chandra, for your presentation and for your time today. And I want to thank our audience for their outstanding questions. Any questions that were submitted and not answered today by our speaker will be addressed via email. And this presentation will be available on demand viewing through September 2021. Please share it with your colleagues who may have missed this topic today. And thank you for your participation. As usual, Agilent always throws a great conference, and I hope you will join me for our next presenter, Shane Snyder. If you are not moving on into the next virtual studio, take care, be safe, and until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you.